Hey, how are we doing? It is Don. We are live today. It's been a real busy day here on my end. I was literally on the road for almost 6 hours. Hang on just a second here. I was literally on the road for almost 6 hours, 3 hours one way, 3 hours back. I did a huge purchase today of some postcards. 25,000 of them is what we purchased today. So my day was really hectic today. After that, I sorted through, I gave some to some employees to list. And then we actually went and did a meeting with somebody else. So I still have a tie on, and we're probably going to go out after this. So I just left it on. Not something you're used to seeing me in, but other than the hair, everything looks normal to me. But anyway, hopefully everybody is doing good today. The wife has got a bunch of stuff she's trying to catch up on here. A quick announcement for next week. I may not have a live show next week. My son has an appointment, and it's quite a few hours away. I don't know if I'm going to really feel like going on live after we deal with that. I'm not sure what we're going to do yet, but I'll let everybody know as we get closer. I'll put a post up and a comment as well as some feed notices on Facebook and Instagram for you all. So just FYI, and that's still tentative for next week. If I don't do the live show, I will have something hopefully special for you video-wise up as well. At 7, it'll probably just start at 7. I'll probably have it ready. If you didn't know, I can schedule all those too. I should be doing more of those because I have videos that are up that I just haven't done anything with yet. But anyway, I hope everybody is doing well. Let's see who's on tonight. Looks like we already have quite a few on here. Let's pop up. Duncan is first. Welcome, Duncan. Salman, how are you doing? Hey, Carl, how are you doing as well? Let's see here. Emily, welcome. Donatello. It's like going to a deli. Didn't know I was supposed to take a number. Nicely done. Welcome. I got Jacob Charles. Welcome. Diane, how are you doing? Sales are good. Yeah, Duncan, sales are very good. If I could get more up, I would sell so much more. Just we're literally jam-packed with sales right this moment, and hopefully everybody else is too. I know a lot of people have issues with sourcing as well as issues with sales in summer. It all depends on what you sell. If you talked to me 5 years ago, I would have been, probably 6 years ago now. I'd be in the same boat as everybody else. I'd be dead in the summer. I'd be slow with issues. I wouldn't be able to source like I can. But again, we've changed up. Things kind of fell in our lap. So for what we do, sales has been extremely good. And I'm not exaggerating. This is still the best month I've ever had. Last month was the best month I've had before that. And the whole chain of cycle goes all the way down to the fourth quarter. So if it stays like this by, in October, we'll be cross-listed, hopefully with everything. And we'll be mass dumping everything across the net. Probably in the by the first week of October, I hope to have everything ready to go for fourth quarter. So everything I do ahead of time, we schedule everything out in advance. I should have asked if everybody can hear me, but I'm assuming everybody can hear me. Let me come back down here and make sure. If the sound is off, please just let me know. Because sometimes it's not so great here on YouTube. Let me pop back up here. And again, sales are good for us right now. And it's not a brag, it's just a fact. We switched up. I don't sell what most people sell. As you've seen my sales, what I sell, I just don't sell what everybody else sells. So I don't have all of those issues like everybody else does with sales. In the past we have, and that's the reason why I don't sell that stuff anymore. So just keep that in thoughts when you're trying to figure out what to do. If you're just starting off, pick something that will get you sales throughout the year. If you're going to do clothing, you got to have some ins and outs, and you have to switch up your merchandise for the summer. You have to switch it back up for the winter. I know coats and things like that will sell all year round, but you're not going to sell as many winter coats in the middle of summer because outside locations that are still in winter in other parts of the globe, they're not going to want to pay as much for shipping. So you might have that as an issue too. With what we sell, it's collectibles. So all of that kind of stuff sells all the time. I don't worry if it's summer. I don't change up my model for summer. I do change it up, or not change it up, I should say. I do add in holidays and seasonal items when it's appropriate. 3 months out maybe would be a good point to start listing your Halloween. 3 months out for Christmas. We list Christmas personally all year round. I list Halloween all year round. I don't care what time of year. I will put a push out and try and dig up every item I have for a certain holiday or a certain event and list it at a certain time all together just to get it out. Like Valentine's Day. I usually list Valentine's Day, in fourth quarter, so it's ready to go. It's just a perfect example, like 4th of July postcards or something. We sold a ton of them, 60 days out. 60 days before the 4th is when we were selling them all. Some sold a little closer and all, but, in all honesty, they sell well in advance. People want them before a holiday. So I hear people talking about, when should I list? If the holiday, let's pick Christmas, is, the 25th is the holiday, let's just say. If you list them December 1st, you're still almost too late to even have a good sale for whatever items you're doing for the 25th holiday. So we list like Christmas, as I said, in October mostly. So just keep that in mind. I'd like to have anything up at least 3 months in advance is what our goal is usually for anything that we sell if it's based on a seasonal aspect. Now, we don't pay what most people do because we have an anchor store. So, we pay average like 2 cents to 5 cents for our listings. If it's the first 10,000, it's like 2 cents. If it's over the first 10,000 listings in the store we share with you, it's only 5 cents to list anything in there. And we don't do auctions other than the free ones we get. Everything across the board, unless there's something that may be better off as a auction, which are very few and far between. Usually I have a price on something, so if I've got prices, I just go with the prices I know. If you don't know about Terapeak and you obviously have a store, Terapeak is free. Terapeak does have useful information specifically to eBay. And it's free with, as I said, with your anchor store, or I believe it comes with most of the stores. I could be wrong. Maybe not the basic, but I think it's the top 3 tiers of stores. I'll hop back to the feed in just a few moments here. Source-wise is what I wanted to address a little bit here today. I had some source-related issues and questions from folks that had emailed me, and I just thought I would address that a little bit here. Summer-wise, like for fourth quarter, if you're dead now in the water, fourth quarter will hopefully make you or break you. If you don't survive till then, that's a different story. But, don't quit a day job. And I wouldn't recommend anybody quitting. Just let's quit and go full-time on eBay or Amazon or whatever you're doing. It doesn't work that way. I worked for people when I could. I worked full-time jobs as a regional, 60-plus hours a week, 70 hours, whatever I could, as the regional or a general manager for years and years, 20 years of my life. And I still did eBay on the side. Had I thought you could do full-time, it might have been a little different. But I know a lot of people who just can't get enough business coming in on their eBay store. They're too new. They've branched out. I know there's a lot of sites to sell on and stuff, but for what I sell, eBay is the number one site. You can look at comps, you can look at sales, you can look at whatever you want. eBay still beats everybody else with what I sell. And I'm not saying that there aren't sites that do better than eBay. Like, for instance, 78 Records, and this is a specific difference, sell better or higher priced on Amazon than they do on eBay. Discogs, cheaper 45, sell better than on eBay. Like Hit Postcards. Hit Postcards, you'll sell more of the cheaper postcards on there than you would on eBay. I guess maybe there's less competition for the cheapo postcards on Hit Postcards versus eBay. We sell on 9 platforms, so I played around and we figured out where stuff sells best. Something that takes time. I list items here, I list items there. They don't work, I switch it up. I don't stick to the same model every single day of the week and hope that it keeps increasing my sales. For those of you who aren't increasing or aren't doing anything with your sales, they're plummeted or they're stagnant, the only thing I can tell you is you need to switch things up. You need to look at your keywords, your SEO, your search results, even like ranking in a Google search. And I know people say it doesn't matter this. I don't know how many times people find stuff of mine from a Google search, and I know they do because they've said this. You can survey the people that email or you talk to or that you send offers to and ask them questions. There's nothing wrong with asking your customers questions. If you do this, you're going to find out information that you'll be surprised to know. And I do stuff like that. So I was the test guru on anything. I'd test anything I could on eBay trying to increase our sales. So whatever works, and I move on with that. If it doesn't work, I don't have any results, we stop it and we move on to something else. So change up whatever you can. If you're not selling, look at your merchandise. Look at what is out there. Do some ended sold search just on items that you have in your store and see what they're going for right this second. Maybe they're items that you've had up for 3 or 4 months. You might have to go back and revisit them. I revisit things constantly. I don't worry if they've been up for a long time on some items, but most of them I'll go back and check, especially if I'm sending offers to watchers which again, I got a video on that. If you send watchers or offers to your watchers, you're going to get some sales out of it. I know people say, no, you're just giving it away for cheaper. 99% of the time, I'm right on my prices where I want to be with the prices and what I think I can get out of them. And 90% of the time, at least, I get what I want out of my items. So if I've got something that's been up for a year or two, I'm not going to worry about maybe somebody getting something cheaper. I'm going to mark it down or make an offer and sell it. It's no sense in hanging on to stuff for days and years and years and years and years. Some items I'll keep for years because they're such scarce items that it takes the right person on. But if it's like a $300 record or something, like an Elvis disc that, they made 1 million of and there's still enough that shows up, I'm not going to sit there and argue and worry about making an extra 30 or 40 bucks and hold on to something for an extra year. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at sales, when you're looking at what to do, what to purchase. Most of the antiques and stuff that we sell, I've done it for, now we're on like 8 years now, full time is what I've done this for. We sold on eBay since eBay has been called eBay. The very first year eBay was called eBay. So I know eBay like the back of my hand. This is my life. This is what we do. This is what the family does. Everything about what I do is related to eBay. So, just take that with a grain of salt that you got to know the markets. You got to know what you're doing. Too many people just jump into it and don't do enough research. They don't understand even how the site works or the options work or setting up payments or any of that kind of stuff. And, they're going to have issues. It's usually the newer folks on it. And again, I'm not criticizing her. I was a new person at one time too. But you got to dive into this. If you want to do this full time, you're going to be putting in more than full-time hours to get started on this. I know there's people who say, no, I only do 5 hours a day, or I only do this, I only do that. If you want to make a lot of money, at least enough to be self-sufficient on your own doing eBay, you're going to have to put in the extra legwork. There's just no other way around it. You're just going to have to do it. I have not found another way to do it, so, that's just the way it is. Let's pop back to some questions here. And if you haven't left, hit the thumbs up. Hit the thumbs up if you enjoy watching the show. I always get those haters on here, if they don't want to know how to source or aren't interested, that's okay. That's their call. Some people send me nasty messages because I talk badly about my market for clothing. When I'm talking about clothing here and the experiences and what I get for stuff or got for stuff and why I quit clothing, I quit because it's not a market where I live. I can't find it. There's no savers. Goodwills scan or send stuff to boutiques or they auction it off themselves. I don't have sources. So, there's just nothing like that around here to source. But what I can source are as many pieces of paper, records, media, and stuff like that. I can get those constantly. I don't care what the case is. I get those constantly. Daily I get them. I'm going to show you some postcards here today, because I picked up 25,000 plus postcards today for $450. No lie, straight out, that's what I paid for them. I drove, as I said, 6 hours to get these, 3 hours one way. I spent about 40 minutes there going back and forth over the price and digging through the postcards. Even at that price, I dug through them. I didn't just buy them because it was, $450 for 25,000 postcards. I looked and opened up every box. I pulled out some good ones. I knew I was going to get my money back. I knew I was going to make some good money, and I mean some good money. I'm going to end up maybe keeping about 3,000 of the postcards, maybe more than that. I haven't looked through them all, obviously. I've only dug through and looked through a solid 3,000 or so, which is sitting here on my desk right this moment. That was 2 boxes. I think altogether there's 19 boxes of postcards with anywhere from, say, 700 to 3,000 or 4,000 postcards in a box. If you don't know how to calculate postcards, you can literally take a ruler, count yourself out 100 postcards, and look at the ruler where it comes to, and then take the ruler with you or do an eyeball measurement, and you can tell how many cards are in any box that you have just by how many inches that box takes up. So I tell people that that's a good way to judge on how many postcards are there. Measure them. Postcards are usually universally thick, so they're usually about the same size. So just FYI. Well, thank you, Hoffman. I really appreciate that, Hauptmann. He sells a lot of military, real good guy. We've chatted here and there on here as well, too. I do appreciate that $10 super chat. Thank you very kindly there, Hauptmann. I have looked at your store, too. I do like that kind of stuff, too. Hopefully you change your mind on popping off there on eBay. I think the market's going to change, especially once Amazon does what I've heard they're going to do, which is go after the collectibles and try and challenge eBay. eBay is going after Amazon's customers, and I'm sure Amazon is going to be doing the exact same thing. So other markets for it. Some items, obviously, I would never sell on Amazon, collectible-wise, just because of the nature of the items. But, Amazon's still a good market. We do sell collectibles, vintage, across the board on Amazon. October starting, we should have like almost all of our items on Amazon that are able to go up on Amazon. So you're talking 40, 50,000 items I'll have on Amazon. Hopefully by October 1st or the first week in October. So again, thank you, Hoffman. I really appreciate that. Let me see here. My feed disappears sometimes, so please excuse me if I can't respond immediately. But again, postcard-wise, postcards seem to be the craze lately. I get lots of questions on postcards. I have videos just on how to age, date, and talk about postcards. There's several of them, and they go into very good detail. I'll show you the types, how to tell, how to age, how to grade them. Literally, if you look back in my how-to playlist, you'll see them in there from about 2 months ago. I think if you type in postcard, you can actually find them that way. Same thing with records. I grade records very, very specifically. Same thing with postcards. There's probably not a type of postcard that I haven't seen or had. I get them all the time. Postcards are a huge part of what we do. Today we listed probably 260, well, I didn't list, but today probably 260 cards were listed on eBay just today. So again, some of them are what we just bought. I left early this morning. I left at 5 this morning to be somewhere by 8. And then I was back around noon, so just FYI. So again, today's not going to be a super long video just because it's been a really long day for me. I'm usually up at 5 anyway, but today I'm not a big long drive person. Usually what we do is for my son when he's got an appointment or something because his medical issue, we have to go out of the state usually to see somebody. So anyway, just FYI on that. Let me just show you something really unique here while we're sitting here. Postcard-wise, this is a multi-graph, I believe they're called. This is the same girl. This is one of the ones I always look for. Some of these cards can go for $250 or better. This is a real photo, real picture postcard, RPPC. This is one of the lot that I got there. Again, if something like this, if you can look these up yourself, put trick RPPC. That's all you need to do. Put in a search if you're interested. Look up comps. You will see some of a girl with curly hair on one of these. This was a big fad back in the day. You had to have some money to get these as well, too. This isn't something just every person went down and got. This is a studio shot. It had to be set up. It took a little bit of difference in development and the whole works. I don't know if it's a mirror issue or something like that. I never did figure out or look into it that deeply, but this is the kind of thing that, gets me going when I see stuff like this. Again, I went through 3,000 or so postcards when I got back. I pulled out, well, let me just show you part of keepers. This is a keeper stack out of 3,000. There's probably 400 or 500 cards here. Roughly, I'm keeping half of the 3,000 cards I got to start off with. So, maybe I'll get 10,000 cards that are sellable. This, again, these are keepers. I would have spent $1 on each one of these cards I'm showing you in this stack, just to buy them separately. Of course, I didn't pay that much. I got like 1.75 cents a card into them, something like that. And then, these are the clunkers. These are all junk cards. These are the stuff that I'm discarding. These came from somebody who used to run a shop. Now, these have been off in boxes in a garage. Some of the boxes had some water damage. I took a shot. I'm fine with the conditions of the cards. They'll still sell just the way they are. This is from the wife of the person. He hasn't been able to do a shop. He's been in a nursing home for, 20 plus years. Never been on eBay, a single one of these cards. Never been anywhere but in an antique store. So, I'm very confident and comfortable that that's the truth on the story. These boxes were dusty. They were dirty. They had been stored in a garage. It's a perfect example of, sourcing. This is something that somebody turned me on to. I did pay a commission of $50 for the purchase. So, somebody got $50 and then I bought the cards for $450. A lot of people don't like to mess with huge bulk lots of these. For me, I'll sort through every one of those 25,000 postcards. I will lot up everything else that's not worth me messing with. I don't sell $3, $4 cards. I don't sell $5 or $6 cards. Mostly I try to have $9.99 cards or higher, or I won't list them anymore. So I'll sell lots of 1,000 cards on eBay, and I've done them. You can, if you check my store from time to time, you'll see that I do sell that kind of stuff. A couple times a month, I will sell 2, maybe 3,000 postcards. Sometimes, like next month, I'll probably have like 10,000 postcards, 10 lots of 1,000. And that's what I do with the rest of them. So it's not a win-win every time you buy something. This could have all been junk. I don't care what you pay for it. The best you could do on something, if it's just junk cards, would be just to turn around and resell them as a huge bulk sum lot and just end up and be done with them. But anyway, let me just show you a couple more here. Now this one's really, really nice, and hopefully this one shows. Let me see, make sure you can see that. The child here, now I wish it was a little clearer. There you go. I think you can see that. He is playing with a 1910, 1915 Hubley die-cast ice delivery truck. That truck is an original. Now, you'll see some of those on eBay, but this is the original. The ones on eBay are later versions of it. I have not been able to find one of these original ones with the thin tires. Now, there's differences on this. This card may not look like much to most people. Most people may have just looked and said, look, it's just a child. I'm not going to mess with it. That toy on there is going to sell this card. That little toy, that's all that this is going to sell for. This is up right now. You can look. I've got Hubley in the title. I know my toys, so I know that's a Hubley. If you don't know your toys, maybe you wouldn't know that that's a Hubley, but that's a Hubley. I've had almost the same thing, but it wasn't an ice truck. It was a mail delivery truck by Hubley. And it may not be marked. I don't remember. It's been so long, but this is a good example of something. I believe I got like $75 is what I put on this one here. I'll just show you a few more here. This is a prairie tractor. Now, cards like this can go for like $300, $400, $500. It's a real photo postcard again. It's AZO back, the whole works. This is the kind of stuff that I look for. This came in the lot. Western Gunslinger. This is the real deal. This isn't like some fictitious staged photo. He's not a performer. This is a guy literally in Bentley, Oklahoma. This is a typical ranch hand from that era. So, this is the kind of stuff that I look for again. Now, here's another card most people will miss. Now, let me see if I can get it close enough where you can see it. She is holding a doll. That is a doll. She is holding a really ugly, bizarre doll. And it actually says the doll's name is called Big Boy, and it was won at a punch board in Triumph, Illinois. So, nice, another good example. It's ideable. The person's name, the child's name's on it, the doll name's on it. Again, these are like $30, $40, $50 to the right person on stuff like this. I'll just show you just a few more because I know people do like to see the postcards. This one's unique. It's actually a cute one here. Let me make sure you can see that a little better. It's not blurry, but unfortunately it's kind of hard to get it on here. The face looks a little washed out. It is not washed out, I assure you. But stuff like this is cute. The person's name's on it, the whole works. $20, $30. Train ones always sell. This is a train, and this is in Centralia, Illinois. And it's the C and E and I. And I've had other ones from the same line, believe it or not. Another one, same train crossing the railroad or the street road. And another nice shot of that same steam locomotive. These 4 cards, probably $250 for these four cards. That's probably what I'll get out of these as a lot. So, right there, I've just showed you enough to get all my money back from that purchase. Stuff like this. Now, again, somebody might not think much of this. She's actually smoking a pipe. Let's see if you can see it there. She's got a corncob pipe in her hand. That alone will sell this card. A lady smoking, just like you'll see children smoking. And I know it's a bad example, but they do sell. Military. This is a World War... Well, he's probably before World War I. I would say this is about 1910. He's holding a Springfield rifle. That's going to sell this card here, too. Springfield rifle. Here's another interesting one here. This is... Let me see if I can read that. Newport. Okay, Newport, PA. It's 2nd Street. This is a bark vendor selling bark in downtown Newport, PA, for turpentine. And this is like a good occupational card. This is something that might go for $135 to $145. Again, this is out of the same lot. There's another quick example here, and then I'll maybe show you some more later if anybody's interested. I don't want to flood it with just postcards. A lot of people might pass on something like this. This is from a small town. This is from a small area. It's children. It's an old dried creek bed. it's something that there's probably only one of. This is probably the only one of these exists, so I'm still going to get $50 out of this, I would hope, too. Obviously, it hasn't sold yet, so I can't say for sure, but it's got the location, it's got the names of who's in it, it's got the family who owns the property on the back as well, too. So, you know, you can't go wrong with all the information on there. So anyway, that's what I do with the postcards. I pull them all out. I look for stuff that most people may not mess with. Cars are fun, too. I pull out the car ones. I do save a lot of the car ones for myself because I do artwork with them, so I probably won't sell any of the car-related ones personally. So let's go back to some questions. Again, I apologize for not getting to the questions here, but let me see who else is here before I forget anybody. Let's see here. Jacob, welcome. Lone Star State, been there, worked in Dallas for like 3 months. The wife's got family all over there. Hustle and Grind Calgary, how are you doing? Cheryl, how are you doing? South Carolina, been through there as well. I have friends in Greenville. Jason Blake, welcome. Bought an 1865 indenture with BOB tax stamp. BOB, if you don't know what it is for stamps, BOB is back of book. That's a standard abbreviation you will see on eBay across the board. So BOB, if you type in on eBay, you're going to go right to the stamp section and see all kinds of back of books. Back of books are revenue stamps, postage due, airmail, tax revenue of any kind. The marijuana stamps, all the weird stamps like that are all back of book. Documentary, War Department stamps, official mail stamps, special delivery. That's all BOB back of book. So just FYI. Found a rare Washington stamp on the inside. I love old paper because of that. I bought some newspapers from like 1840-ish. They're England, London. I think it was London Times, if I'm not mistaken. And I didn't think much of them. The price was really reasonable. I paid $1 or $2 a piece for these. And back in the day, newspapers were a page or two. They were just one or two small sections of paper usually. It wasn't some big massive thing like today. And I didn't pay much attention to them, and I was going to photograph them. I had them laying out on the table. And there was an 1840-something stamp, like a tax stamp on it from England, on every single one of those. The stamp was worth, I don't know, like $1.75 a piece, somewhere in that range, I think. This was a few years ago, but the point of the matter is that the stamps paid for it. I left them on there. I sold them the way they were, though, but I did get top dollar for them. I wasn't going to spend the extra time or effort trying to get the stamps off there because that would have ruined the value. They were tax stamps because they were bound at one time. And I talk about it. We break up bindings all the time. I don't care if it's a book. I'll tear it apart in a second if I can get extra money out of it that way. Just like machinery. Reel-to-reel players, if they don't work, I tear them apart if it's not one worth fixing. All kinds of stuff like that. Turntables, you know, I'll pull off the head off of a turntable any day of the week. And if you don't know what a head is, that's the part where the actual needle would go into, the actual unit that picks up the sound, and then it goes down a wire through the arm and goes to the turntable to actually shell out the sound. So I'll tear apart anything like that. A lot of machinery and pieces like that, of vintage like what I mess with, are worth more as parts. So, and that goes for anything that I sell usually. It's usually worth more as parts. Let me see here. Let's pop on down. Carl's talking about weekly live auctions are the best. Those are where I make a ton of money when I go to them. I've been shooting a lot of video here too, so I'm going to be scattering some haul videos, some sourcing trips. I got the GoPro out, and I've got the chest attachment. I got everything you can get for the GoPro 7 Black. I think it's the Black. And so we've been shooting some. I'm going to stagger them out through here and mostly do bolos, but you'll get to see some good ones that's got a stabilizer on it, so it's not going to be all jerky. And so you'll see how I haggle and deal with folks too soon here. And I will be shooting in the pawn shop or the jeweler shop that buys our gold here shortly too. So you'll get to see what I do with my gold and scrap stuff as well too, for those of you who like scrapping. I love scrapping. I love finding gold in bags of just junk. So that's always a thrill. It's like finding buried treasure to me. At least that's what I take it as. Let me see here. Is there any way to see more than the 4 items shown for unsold items? Make an offer. I'm not sure is there any way to see more than the 4 items shown for unsold items? I'm not sure what you're asking for, Thomas Gardner. There, you can if your items have not sold, everything's still going to be there. They should never disappear from your store if that's what you're referring to. Solomon, I'm mostly vintage video games, but I'll do anything. I'm always trying to find live auctions, but I feel like it's too complicated online to find some at times. Craigslist you can look to for local live auctions. Most of the ones around here have them listed on Craigslist. I think what's at local auctions or liveauctions.com or antiqueauctions.com, something like, or maybe it's estatesales.com, I think is the site. There's a site that I usually look at. There's like 3 places you want to look if you want to find out. In fact, Carl's got it there. There's Zip Auctions. Zip Auctions, estatesales.com. There's like 3 sites I use, plus Craigslist. You can even look in your local newspaper, and they usually have a online version of it too, at least for that kind of stuff. So let's move on down here. Karen, how are you doing? David, welcome back. Treasure Experts, how are you doing as well? Yeah, I look fancy. Again, I've got business dealings going as well. Not really related to the reselling you guys see. I do other stuff as well. I do wholesale. I do artwork that I do market locally as well to businesses still, because usually I don't have to sit there and piece them. I usually sell a whole lot of something or a design or a concept, and then I just show up with finished products and then turn them over for cash. So just FYI, that's what I do with things. And we have some dealings going on right now with some bigger businesses and some companies. So I'm trying to advance our business, just like I said, with artwork and things like that too. So just FYI. Yeah, my hair is frizzy tonight, Scott. Yeah, I see what you're saying there too. Mr. Mom Vlog, how are you doing as well? Happy Friday. Duncan's in Australia, so he is in a whole different time zone. Edmonton, Alberta. My son will be in Canada in 2 weeks. He is going there with a few friends, and they are going to shoot. He's not here, so I can't tell you. It's just outside of Quebec because a lot of the museums are there. He went to the Military Museum last year, and they did the Mint tour in in Ontario too. I don't know if anybody knows Canada very well, but I've been to Canada 3 or 4 times. I have my ID passport card, I guess you would say. We are going sourcing in Canada in, I think, next summer. We already have it planned. Maybe even sooner than that, but I know next summer we have relatives in town, and we're going to take them to Canada, Niagara Falls. We may go to Niagara Falls this year, too. I'm not sure yet, but if you haven't been, Niagara Falls is really neat. My great finds for you, welcome. Mr. Mark was the one from Edmonton. I am a fan of Canada. I've always had a wonderful time in Canada. And Antiques, how are you doing? Scott, 1885, Texas, welcome. I worked in Texas for a while too. As I said, Dallas. I was a regional. I filled in Dallas for Einstein Brothers Bagels, if you're familiar with that. I was a regional for them for a while. Brimfield's was the bomb when I was there. I couldn't tell you how it is these days, but Brimfield's 15, 20 years ago, I bought so much stuff when we were there, and I actually was working in Boston. We were staying in Salem area, and I worked in Boston for Einstein Brothers as well. And when I was up there, we flew in early for the weekend, and we hit Brimfield several times. I bought so much stuff that we had to box it up, and we mailed like a dozen boxes, big, huge boxes back home, because I just got so much stuff so cheap compared to what I would get it for in Florida when we were living in Florida. So it was a interesting experience. I loved Brimfield's. I found some of the rarest stuff I found in the wild at Brimfield's. Again, 15, 20 years ago, before eBay was full swing. A lot of people used to still laugh at us for doing eBay. I'll give you a quick issue or something that happened to us. We were at Brimfield's. I had just bought a whole bunch of coin silver spoons. In fact, we got a Revere spoon. Paul Revere, wasn't by him himself, but it was by one of his students. We ended up selling for a ton of money, but I had all of these silver items in a lunchbox inside of a suitcase at the airport, and I wrapped them up in my socks and personal items, not thinking that I would have to open up the suitcase. And I had to open it, or they made me open it up right there, and I'm pulling out socks and my personal items to show them that it wasn't some weird time bomb or something, because the video or the x-ray or their sensor at the time was rudimentary, and you couldn't tell what it was. So that was kind of embarrassing, but it was a lot of money sitting in there, and I didn't want to mail back 1870s, or not 1870s. It was like 1770s through 1820s collection of coin silver and silver spoons that I acquired at Brimfield's, mind you. And we came back through the airport with those here. That was a bad day for me, but nowadays you got to take your shoes off and everything else, so it's a totally different story. But the wife was laughing at me too, if I remember right back then. And we had, I don't think, did we have kids back then? I don't think I had kids even back then. I think that was before. Yeah, that was before we had kids, if that tells you how long. So it's 20 years ago was the first time I went to Brimfield's, because that happened the first trip we made to Boston. So anyway, Brimfield's is the bomb, though. Sales down, but it's my fault. Not listing as much. Other than that, sales are great. Wubba Lubba Dub Dub, how are you doing as well? Joe Z, welcome. Yeah, on auctions and stuff, there's auctions around here in my area. Like every day of the week I could probably go to one. Or as state sale, there's something I could go to every day of the week. In most cases, there's 2 or 3 every day of the week. And I'm not counting garage sales or anything like that. I'm talking about multi-sourcing areas where you can go and get a bunch of stuff all at once without going and driving all over the place. I don't do many garage sales anymore, and it's just because I don't have to. I'm not, again, people say I'm bragging or you're just trying to make it sound good. I just don't have to do it. I don't need to. I would rather pick up 25,000 something or 10,000 records or 5,000 records or a huge storage unit full of just vintage antique store that went out of business, a wholesale business that is up for foreclosure and everything's being auctioned off. Those are the bomb if you don't know about those. I'll shoot you out another sourcing thing. This is something that I personally have done many, 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 many times. I've got friends that know certain areas that I don't know. I worked for restaurants for 20 plus years, so I know all the equipment in a restaurant. I know what a mixer blade costs, and the industrial ones. Some of those are $1,500 for a paddle that goes on an industrial mixer. And these mixers stand about 6 feet tall. I used many of them. I know what all that stuff costs and what it costs to order and buy these items. I still get the catalogs for them just for that reason. And we turn around, and there's 3 of us that go in on this stuff. One person will actually take up and he'll buy all the electronic equipment, stuff like that. He'll sell out those, himself. We'll split it up whatever we think is fair at the time. And I've worked with these people for a while, so I trust them on working these deals up. He takes the registers and all that stuff. All the scan systems and the card systems are worth some good money. Thousands of dollars in a whole system for a restaurant. The equipment in a restaurant's usually we can make a ton of money, but we'll split it up. One person deals with the fixtures and the bigger stuff, the coolers, and he markets them to local restaurants. He'll market them to some of the companies around here that buy secondhand equipment and then turn around and resell them as well. And then I'll take equipment as well, and we'll all split it up that way. So we can go in. It's nobody is shelling out the entire amount for the entire purchase, but we'll buy an entire establishment's foreclosure sale or whatever we can get our hands on. Sometimes we can luckily get stuff like that before it goes up for public. So it'll just be a quick cash sale, sign some paperwork. It's all ours. We got so many days to get it out of there. It's basically along the same lines of a abandoned storage locker auction. It's basically the same exact example. But with these type of business foreclosure sale or something along that line or going out of business, we know it's there. It's not a random assortment of stuff that you would find in an abandoned storage unit. It is all stuff that I know what it is, and I can pretty much guesstimate a real good solid value on what's in the building. Even like the cup dispensers that you slap the cups into and they spring down and holds the cups in there. Those new can go up to say $260, $275 for the cheaper ones. Some of the expensive ones that have a whole unit of 3 bank on those, you might get $1,000 for a U set that covers both sides of a counter. So all of that stuff, it's stainless steel, it's industrial grade, it's food safe, hospital safe. It costs more than normal stuff. So all that kind of stuff I dig into. Maybe I'll show you. I bought some neon letters I have here too, and they're big letters. We bought out, and I bought the entire sign worth of letters. I think I got 12 letters that are about 4 feet tall with neon lights and the units still in them. Now I'm going to wire one up and test it out to make sure. But neon sells very well, and I will ship those. I will pack that up because a neon letter, 150 or better. That's usually what I get. I've got an Einstein Brothers 5-foot sign, double-sided neon sign even in here that I put together as well. I don't mind doing that. signs like neon signs, there's a local shop that repairs them, and I'll usually have them fixed if they're broken. If it's one tube, it's worth 30 or 40 bucks to have it fixed. I don't have much into these. I'll probably show you in a quick haul, or just do a call out on letters and stuff like that. Industrial letters from signs. You don't have to have a whole sign. It doesn't have to say Goodyear or something. Individual letters sell for us all the time. I do very well with those. Sometimes I sell them locally. I'll put together a name. Like if I get all the letters for Don, I would probably keep it. So DON is all I need. I think I have an O and an N, but I haven't even thought about putting it together. But people do that. They'll buy letters, or they'll buy just what they want. And don't worry about, you don't have enough to make a whole name. They still, as I said, sell singly. Stuff like that goes very well anyway. That's just a way you can get sources of material like that. That's looking outside the box. There was a shoe store that went under here, and that I bought out most of the stuff in there. And why would I go to a shoe store? Because none of the shoes were for sale. It was mostly the equipment that they were doing, and some vintage items here. The vintage items were really good vintage items. He collected stuff. And there's another one out of business probably shortly, or he will retire because he's getting up there, and he's got a huge assortment. So when you walk in, there's all kinds of stuff. Looks like an Applebee's or Cracker Barrel with all the antiques tacked on the wall. He had a collection in the one that I went to, and we got a bunch of machinery to make the old screwed-on sole shoes. The machinery was from like 1880s through the 20s. No one hardly showed up there. No one thought a thing about a cobbler's business going out under. I did. And there was only 2 other people there that were into vintage at all, and they were looking for specific things. All the rest of the people there were just trying to buy equipment. One person who was there was actually trying to buy the equipment so he could use it for his own shoe shop. So you don't have a lot of competition when you do stuff like that. So just keep that in thoughts. Nothing is out of reach for us at this point anyway. Money-wise, I'm not worried about that. So if I need to shell out the money, it's there. You may not have that option, but you can go to some of these sales, if they're auctions, and piece out. Pick some pieces that you know that you've researched enough to say, hey, that's going to be worth a few bucks. It's better to go to an auction like that, or going out of business, liquidation, something along that line, because you know what you're going to get. You can look at it. And many times you have a better chance of getting stuff than going to, say, a garage sale, if your garage sales aren't any good. Now, around here, we do have some good garage sales. I don't, again, go to most of them. I just don't like the driving around. It's not because of the money on gas, because I spent, I have 6 hours in gas today, and I probably literally used the whole tank, $40+ worth of gas today, and then a commission. So, I've got, say, $550 into those postcards with all my said and done on that. So anyway, let's move on to some more questions here. Let me pop down here. Hopefully I'm not too far off. It's July and I'm selling vintage Christmas cards on eBay. Hauptmann, exactly. I sell them all year round. There isn't a time that I will say, let me stick on and hold on to postcards. Other Christmas items sell better towards Christmas time, though. Christmas lights, though, sell all year round. One of the best-selling lights that you could sell, like on our Amazon, and I'll give you one here on Amazon just because it's a known one. I just saw 2 other channels talking about it. Clear Christmas lights sell all year round. All year round. So do the blue ones, and sometimes we can sell the red ones all year round, too. But you can get them out of season. You can get them at clearance for Christmas, which is what we do, and I'll buy hundreds. Sometimes if I could get 1,000 NOS Christmas lights, plain ones, at certain times of the year, I would have probably done it. Even if I've got to hang on to them for a little while, because they always sell. People buy them for their decks, their man caves. Kids will put them in their rooms, on the walls, and things like that, too. So Christmas lights sell all year round. But the ornaments and stuff, I do sell better starting in October. That's usually the range where they start to pick up a little bit. I'm not saying you won't get good money for most of them, but you'll get more around Christmas. Some of the rare Christmas items will sell for the same price no matter what time of year it is, in my book. Just because, again, they are that rare that, it doesn't matter when they're up. I sell Halloween the same way. Halloween postcards, for example, I don't think there's a time when a good Halloween postcard won't go for top dollar. I can't think of a time. And there's so many other things. Just like if I had a Tahoe card, and in fact, I've got some in here. Maybe I'll pull out some and do a video on the haul and some of the better cards in here. Because I got a Baker's Field card in here too, or Bakersville, I think it is, which is just outside Tahoe, and it's something that could go for some big money here too. So there's a couple cards that I saw out of the 3,000 that I pulled out that might be, $500-$600 cards. So, I get excited when I see that kind of stuff. So anyway, let's pop onto some questions here again. Let me pop down here. Again, my feed pops off and disappears. Karen sells Christmas all year round. Yep, collectors want. And I wish everybody would get this. I say this all the time, and I usually get a lot of nasty comments. Collectors collect. If you don't sell clothing and you sell collectibles, it's going to sell all year round. You're not going to have the slow off that everybody else talks about. I don't have it. You've got several people on here who will tell you the same thing, and like Duncan, for example. I've never met Duncan. I don't know Duncan any more than some of the other folks on here. We've talked, we've chatted, we've shared some photos and things like that. He sells all year round. He's got the same things, similar things than I do. He finds better sourcing for stamps than I do, but he's got some better connections. I wished I had some better stamp connections. The only problem is I'd probably keep some that I probably should sell. So anyway, paper sells though all year round. I never worry anymore. We used to worry, how are we going to keep this going? How are we going to keep this going? Because with clothing, I would die off. I would switch up. It would cost me a lot of time and effort to try and switch up the merchandise that I sell for clothing, in the summer. So I would lose time. I'd have to source harder. There'd be more people sourcing. It was a fight. Nowadays, I just put it up and don't worry about it too much. I don't worry about, trying to find sources for the material. I don't worry about, any of that stuff. It's led us to hiring employees and all this stuff. If I was still selling clothing, I probably wouldn't have employees and all that other kind of stuff. But I wouldn't be where I'm at. And again, it's not a brag. This is just the facts. I don't, I'm not here to brag about it. I don't really care about trying to make myself look better. If you don't like me, you don't like me. You do. That's just the way it is. This is business. All this is business, and it's a business talk here. So, that's how I take it. Let me see. Galaxy 5000. I have to list my Halloween candles I got at a yard sale. Sold a NASCAR diecast. Will be All-Star car as soon as I listed it last week. Yeah, I talk about that too. If you list, you're going to sell. 3 to 5% of everything we list sells the same day we list it. Every single time. We list quantity, so you're listing at least 100 or 2 items every single day that we have somebody listing. Let's see here. Offers to sellers, always good. They do work, yes. If you're worried and you don't want to do an offer to seller and the item hasn't been up very long, don't send one out. Let it ride, let it stick there, and don't worry about it. Give it a little time to sell. I'm not in a rush to sell. If you want to make more money, your best way to make more money is to literally let it ride. And let it ride for the longer amount of money and to go long tail. You got to have the money to do that, though. You've got to have enough built up in your store to be able to do that. If you've got 500 items and they're not super quick movers, you can't do it. You're going to have to keep cranking out money and selling stuff. The rule of thumb here is you got to have turnover if you're new into the game. I have turnover, but I sell higher dollar stuff for the most part. Well, higher dollar for what we have. So my model may not work for you, but for long tail items, this has been my turning point. When we figured out that I could just put this stuff up and put quantity and do long tail, that was the best bet. I know people say, well, you got all this money in labor and all this and that. If somebody's listing stuff, their labor is paid for usually before they walk out the door by something that's sold the day they listed it. That's just the way it is. I don't worry about labor. I used to say, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I'm spending all this money on labor. The first week or two we started, I was nervous, but things just start selling. You get into a groove, you get into a setup, you've got the processes in place. I've got a business plan that works for us. None of that is an issue for us, And people talk, the expenses for this, the expenses for that. My listing fees are nothing. My listing fees are like one day a month usually pays for my listing fees and everything on that aspect of it, depending on, what we've got listed at any given time. But I never worry about that anymore. Just like people talk about gas. Am I going to worry that I spent $45 on gas possibly today? Highway driving? Not at all. I've got 25,000 plus postcards. No exaggeration. That's literally what came in the house today. My wife may not be so happy because I keep saying I'm not going to take over the house, and right now there's boxes on our kitchen table again and on the floor. The counters down here are totally flooded with postcards, and I mean flooded with postcards. I've got stacks of postcards and then boxes of postcards, as well as postcards that I bought from other sources too. So I buy postcards a couple times a week, every single week of my life. Probably some weeks I buy postcards almost every day if I'm out sourcing. That's just the way it is. Louis the seller, welcome. Well, how you doing, Popeye? Popeye's got a real good channel if you like postcards as well. I actually use a scanner because of Popeye that actually does work, and it's an Epson, I believe. I always forget the number. I think it's a 540 or 560. It's a duplex scanner. It scans both sides of paper at the same time. My video looks a little blurry now. But that scanner is because of Popeye. I gave up on scanners. I've had 7 scanners that we've went and tried. I don't, flatbeds are just impractical for postcards. If you're doing quantity like us, I can do, geez, I know people talk about quantity. I can do both sides of a postcard, and I can do, let me think, but give you an honest guesstimate. In a 2-hour time span, an employee can probably do close to 500 postcards scanning in a 2-hour time frame. So if $20 I pay somebody for that 2 hours, and they're scanning all those postcards. So, you know, minimum wage is different in our state. It's 8 something, so I pay a little bit over that, obviously. I do give people raises, so before somebody says, hey, $15 is minimum wage, that's only in certain areas. I pay whatever minimum wage plus some if that's what it takes. Obviously, we're a business, so I do like to save money. So, you know, I treat them. They get to eat here and all that kind of stuff, too. So, and they get to take home stuff constantly. So, you know, I do take care of my employees. We're still blurry here. Hopefully, it's not blurry anymore, but we'll move on to here. BCR, I'm not going to try and say that all out here. Might sharing all your postcards selling knowledge cause increased competition or flood a market? No, because postcards are so unique for the most part. 99% of the postcards I run into, I haven't run into before. The postcards that are worth the most are usually like real picture or real photo postcards in the first place. And you're just going to have to sit out there and source them. I have been doing this and talking about postcards for, what, a year and a couple months or longer than that here on YouTube. I don't see anything different. I see increases in my sales, if anything. And there's more than one platform. We sell postcards on several platforms as well. More than 2. I do Etsy, Hit Postcards, and then eBay as well. So, you know, those are your opportunities to sell postcards. I have them on Amazon too, believe it or not. I do have postcards. We started putting postcards on Amazon not too long ago with Sellbrite. So just FYI, cross-listing using a third-party app so I don't have to take anything down. That was the drawback. So let me just shoot that out here for just a minute. And I've talked about this in several places. My Patreon, I go into some detail on it as well, and I've got some more breakdowns. To list on multiple sites in the past, what most people have done before third-party apps or before they realized you can do it, and me included, was I'd only list a limited number of items on certain other sites and try and keep a list accurately of what's listed on what site. If I sell something on eBay, then I got to go to these other sites and pull all those down manually. I can't deal with that anymore. I'm not getting enough up on other platforms. So what we've done is we've subscribed to a third-party app called Sellbrite. And with the Sellbrite, anything you create in Sellbrite, and you promote it across any sites you want that Sellbrite handles, including Etsy, Amazon, and eBay, as well as my own site. If it sells on one site, Sellbrite will take it down for me. I won't have to do that anymore. So my bottleneck used to be that I didn't want to spend 20 minutes every day trying to figure out or sometimes maybe it might have been an hour, even trying to figure out what needs to be taken down from which other site. Now, doing it this way, I won't have to do that unless it's a site that's not covered by Sellbrite. GoDaddy bought Sellbrite, so the opportunity to do more things with it is coming down the line. So I think Sellbrite was the best choice. I didn't know Sellbrite was going to be bought out by GoDaddy beforehand. So I picked Sellbrite based on a lot of factors, including their length of service, how they charge. Now, Sellbrite is different than every other one that I've run into. If you're seriously thinking about upping your business, and I mean upping your business, I've got close to 60,000 listings on eBay right now, active listings over 3 stores. If you want to up your business, the best way to do it quickly is to cross-list those on other platforms that have potential to sell. Listing them on Amazon, for those of you who have a business account, you know it's only $39.99 for the business account fee, your commercial fee, and then you can list whatever you want, as much as you want. So I'd be crazy not to throw all this stuff up on Amazon. We're ungated in collectibles. I can do historical. I can do advertising. I can do toys, new and old. I can do collectible vinyl. Where else can I list? I've got a ton of toys. I can do NOS on CDs, DVDs, and LPs. I'm ungated. We've been grandfathered in. We've been ungated in those areas for years, so like a decade. So anyway, just FYI. that's where we're heading. So October 1st is our deadline, or the first week in October, to have that all up. So, that's our goal. That's the way you can increase your business without adding new items to your store. We'll have our own store as well. So our goal after that, once that starts going and we see all these sales, which I'm sure they're going to come in. I've seen too many people personally who have done just this and ended up getting a 30, 40, 50, 60% increase in their sales within the same year they started doing this. So that's a good chunk of change for us. And I mean a big monstrous chunk of change to not instantly, but to rather quickly get it. We've got good standing feedback on all the other platforms we're on, as good as they are on eBay. We're 100% on eBay, cross my fingers, and have been for a very long time. Let's see here. Annie, how are you doing, Annie? I think that girl postcard is a multi-exposure, probably with a lot of dodging and burning in the dark. And that very well may be. I've seen people call it a multi-graph, and I don't know if that's a technical term or not. And I've heard it for probably the last 3 or 4 years. I've heard people call it. I don't know how it's done. I honestly don't know. Victorian Photoshop. Yeah, that's a good one, Annie. I like that. That's probably basically what it is. Let me call this out too here. Victorian era. Most people don't understand that. The Victorian era was the era where Queen Victoria ruled. If she passed away, it was not the Victorian era after her death, nor was it before her death. Edwardian and all this kind of stuff comes into play. So one thing I see people asking is, should I list this way? If it's not Victorian, if Queen Victoria was not alive, it's not Victorian technically. So, and that's the standard I've always went by. People may say that's not the case, but as far as I'm concerned, the Victorian era is Queen Victoria's era. Her ruling, her reign is when the Victorian era was. So at least the last half of her reign. So. Carl, when you say discarding the other cards, do you lot them up and list? Yeah, I list them up at 1,000 at a time. Bulk lots, yep. Oregon Coast, welcome. Do I list them as vintage postcards? I usually put the C period and then like circa 1910 or 1905 through 1910, 1900 through 1910. I'll put a range. If it's past 1920s or so without the white border or something, I usually just put the word vintage. And lately, I haven't even been putting vintage in some of the titles because it's unessential anymore. The term vintage has gone out of sway in my book, at least for postcards. What's ever easiest to list them is what I say. I don't worry about it. I worry about the keywords more than anything else. What's on the card itself? Hauptmann, because of Don's videos, I found 2 picture postcards of California hydraulic gold mining circa 1920 for a... Hang on, I can't quite see that. For $1 each, and sold them for $125 plus shipping. Well, good to hear, Hauptmann. Very good to hear. Somebody else just sent me something. They purchased a book, and I think they're getting like $150 for it, something out of one of the lists. And some of the lists I have other BOLO lists that are just on Patreon, just for the patrons. And then somebody else purchased a postcard the other day, and they sold one for $500, and it was one that I told them they should buy. Another dollar postcard. So I know my information is good. I would never intentionally give out any bad information. I did have a typo in one of my videos recently on my fees. So Anchor Store fees, I totally brain freeze and mixed up one number. So I do make mistakes. I do try to correct every one that I do make. But again, there's points to the videos that may go beyond a specific number, price, or fee. So anyway. We got almost 160 people watching. If you haven't given it a thumbs up, why don't you give it a thumbs up if you're enjoying the conversation. I'm trying to give you out a bunch of information here. We're going to slam some more questions here. I'm going to go just a little longer, but we are not going to. We'll be probably by 8:30. I will have to cut it off. And again, thanks, Hauptmann, as well for the super chat also, Hauptmann. Emily, well, thank you. Let's see, can you ever drop a like for all those amazing knowledge? Well, thank you. Carl, I'm familiar with white border cards, but what's up with some of those that only have white border on 2 sides? The ones that might have like on 2 sides, they could be like a photo of a photo. Sometimes when you found a postcard or an image, you could go into a shop and they would take another photograph of that. And if it wasn't the exact size or they couldn't enlarge it enough to make it the same size, a standard postcard is 3.5 by 5.5. If they couldn't have blown up the postcard or whatever photo they're using, you will usually see white on both sides or white on one side. Sometimes you'll see, and do I have one? Do I have one here? Well, here's a good example. Here's one right here. This one has white on the top and white on the bottom. It's just the size of the photo. Maybe they could have enlarged it more. Maybe they didn't have the paper in the camera. You could buy, a pack and a camera, and you would literally take your own photos. So if the person, maybe didn't load it right or something along that line, it may have come out like that. Sometimes you'll see like vignettes, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, with just like an oval. Well, here's one right here, actually. Hang on just a second here. Where, they'll crop off part of the image and you'll just see like the person. Sometimes it'll just be a little box up here with part of the image and they'll leave a big chunk of white space. Now, before a certain time, you couldn't write on the back of the card. It only had the addresses. That's all you were allowed to write on it. So they would have to leave white space to write your message on the front. So sometimes you'll see white on the front of a postcard for that very same reason. Now, there's other things like that too, like, now this is just a junk postcard. They did it for other reasons, for artistic as well. This has got a border, so, it's done for many different reasons. Not some crazy thing, though. I mean, I see tons of cards. In fact, there's probably 3 or 4 more in here. Yeah, this one's got a lot of white space. Again, one side here, one side here. Same age. It doesn't mean much in age on those. I see those even up into the 30s, 40s, and 50s with white sides on them and stuff like that. Reselling Rob, how are you doing? Midwest Picker, welcome. M. Scott, hello as well. Let's see here. Donatello, are color postcards value from the late 60s and 70s? If so, in your opinion, which ones? I'd have to leave camera, but I do sell newer postcards. For the most part, I don't mess with almost any of the newer postcards unless they're very specific. I bought a nice stack of Kings Island postcards. And they're from if you don't know what Kings Island is, it's an amusement park up here. I believe it's in the lake or something. I don't really remember exactly where it's at. I went there as a kid. There's a big Eiffel Tower at this place. But the postcards I got were from the earlier days when Hanna-Barbera characters were there. And there's an enchanted building, enchanted ride there. And like that one's a new card. It's a big card. It's 4x6, which is the large size and modern day postcard. And I picked them up for $0.25 a piece. One of those cards alone I have sold before several times for $57.50. Now, it's a local thing, so they show up here a lot. And it's one of the ones that people pass up. Amusement parks, I do sell the newer ones. California, I do sell a lot of newer cards, even the large size ones. I had a whole stack, and normally I would never tell anybody to buy dupes of newer cards. But this was from a California restaurant, and it had girls dressed from the 80s, and it had girls dressed in like skimpier outfits. And I have a big stack of them. I had a big stack, I should say. Every one sold for at least $20. And they were 10-cent a piece cards because it was the same card. Usually that's a ploy I can use. If I'm at some place and there's a whole stack of the identical cards and it's a good card, I can usually get the price down on them less than they would charge me if they're individual, because your ploy is, who's going to buy every one of those cards? You might sell one at a time. I'm offering you, half off to buy them all at once. That's usually what I do. It's bulk purchase, same thing. I do that all the time on whatever I can get. So it's a ploy I do. It always works. I bundle stuff together. I purchase in quantity. It lowers your cost across the board in anything you buy. So let's see here. Well, thank you, Siggy Lamp. I've done paper for my father. I got my father's stamp collection when I was 7. So ever since then, I've been into stuff like this. When I was 7, Star Wars just came out, the very first Star Wars. And I started to collect comic books at that same time, which I inherited my father's comic books. And then I did the gum cards, Star Wars cards, and all that kind of stuff, all the toys. So anything that came out in my childhood, I had. I had vintage stuff before that. I had old G.I. Joes were still around when I was a child, the 12-inch ones. And I had a ton of those as a child, too. So I've always known antiques. My uncle in this local area when I was a child too was an antique dealer. My grandmother passed away when I was like 11, and my grandfather passed away the year before. So I went with my uncle for like weeks on end in the summertime and went through and helped him pull stuff out to sell from the estate. And so I got to know stuff, and I helped him a lot, and I got paid in the whole works as a child. And I've always been into antiques. Our house, many times or most times, whatever we've lived, you could call it a museum to some extent. I love vintage everything. Our walls are eclectic, and again, somebody's gonna say I'm bragging. I'm not bragging. This is just what we are, what we do. I've got a lot of weird stuff. The weirder, the better. I like cabinets and displays and stuff like that too. So, wife collects. Even in our bedroom, the wife's got walls of stuff. Shelving all over the place. There's hundreds of feet of shelving. Nice shelving, not this kind of shelving that you would store merchandise on, but nicely done shelving. And again, we're eclectic. We've got a nice mix of stuff in here. It's stuff that we like, and everything that we own, other than furniture and stuff, is, in fact, some of the furniture is antique too. Is stuff that we've sourced. We will upscale something. I collect some things, not very many these days anymore. These days, most everything is business related, but the wife collects some things too. I collect old photos. I collect old photos of Hong Kong and China. And stuff like that I end up keeping. I sell extras. If I get a better photo, I'll sell one of the older ones that's just not as appealing to me. But anyway, let's move on here. Welcome from California. Kathy, dead on sales now. Getting vintage tools ready to go. So interested. Should ramp up. Sorry to hear you're dead on sales. It depends on what you sell. That's all I can tell you. It depends on what you sell. We don't sell what most people sell. And even some of the people who sell vintage and stuff, we sell other people's junk. Most people don't mess with the stuff that we mess with, and that's what got us into it. We're beyond the normal picking life these days. I have people that call us, and I go and just go to somebody's house and pick up their stuff. That's all I have to do. So I don't source like everybody else. I get people, where's the haul videos? Where's this videos? I can't take you on a haul video if I'm going to a picker's house. First off, he doesn't want to know. He doesn't want people to know who he is. He's not a big fan of it, or she's not a big fan of it. One female picker and the others are males that I have. I had 9. One passed away. I've got most of his storage unit here in boxes still, so I may show you unboxing of that if anybody's interested. I don't know if yet. I haven't decided on putting a video together on that, but I don't do what everybody else does. Again, I want to reiterate this again. I know I've said it many times. I'm not bragging. This is just how it's come out. I didn't plan this. This isn't what we expected to be doing. This wasn't part of any model. It just happened. It happened this way. What I sell happened this way. I had no intentions to do or sell any of the stuff that I have as a full-time thing. I've sold postcards in the past, but we usually just cherry-picked. I'd sell one card here, half a dozen cards here, half a dozen cards there, or postcards or comics or whatever the case may be. I sold them here and there, and we'd sell them every couple weeks. I'd run auctions back in the day when we were doing it part-time. It just happened. I did clothing and books to start off full-time. I started full-time with clothing and books. Didn't work out. I switched up, found something else, and then all of a sudden the floodgates opened up with sourcing, and I haven't looked back since, and I never worry anymore. I could go probably maybe a year or more without touching a single source. And again, not bragging, that's just the way it is. You buy it in big, huge bulk. For 25,000 postcards, even if half of these were listed or listable for somebody, how long would it take you guys to list 10,000 postcards? I would probably guess a year for most people. And I'm not even talking to postcards here. I'm just talking to stuff we've got sitting around. When you get into selling the stuff that I sell, the vintage stuff, you'll realize that quantity means nothing anymore. It's not like you're piecing out clothing or I found 10 books at Savers today and I'm happy. Yeah, I'd be happy if I found 10 good books at Savers too, but I find thousands of stuff today in one single trip. Yeah, 6 hours. Probably equates to about the same time frame as somebody going out garage selling for 6 hours. But I just cranked on the radio on the highway, had my snacks, and just cruised down the road. Ended up in Columbus and, went from there. So it wasn't a big deal. I would rather go one straight shot on the car for 6 hours and be done with it. I've got cruise control, so I'm not really worried about that. It depends on what you want to do with your business. My business, I wanted to increase. I didn't care what I sold anymore because I hated clothing. I despise selling clothing. It's a rat race in my book. Not saying it's bad to sell, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with anybody selling it. It's just not for me. When I say something like that, I'm not criticizing somebody. I'm telling you my opinions on my sales history with it. And this is from someone who sold clothing 3 years straight, full time. So again, I've been there, done that. This is so much easier. No complaints, no returns, no anything. It's just like the dream merchandise to sell in my personal book. I've never had such a good time, such an enjoyable time, and such a monetarily rewarding time doing anything in my life until I started doing this with this part. And it's changed our business over. Again, I didn't have employees other than the wife and stuff when we first started with the clothing. It's just not possible around where I live to get clothing in a quantity to make it worth your while. So I picked out what I could, and again, postcards are great. That's not what I don't. Majority of my items are not postcards. And there are not trade cards either, nor are they records. So you don't see what I sell the most of, honestly. The stuff that I show you is probably about 40% of what I do. So, you know, I sell some high-end stuff. I just don't share it because I've been sort of, I did give you a call out on what some of the high-end stuff I do sell is. So if you missed the beginning of the video, go back and check that out. So I do stuff like the closeouts and wholesale. So I went into that earlier if you're interested. Annie shot out that auction zip. Yes, that is a good one too. Thank you, Annie. Audrey, how are you doing? I responded to, and I saw Annie beat me to that on your, Audrey, on the Patreon post on there. On the 8mm films. Hang on 1 second. I don't usually do this, but since we're talking about sourcing, I'm just going to go up and we're going to show you some here. Pre-recorded 8mm. This is one you could buy here. Now, a lot of people don't think these carry much value, but this is a World War II Yanks fighting in Africa. Now, this is from World War II. This is an 8mm film. I played this. I've got clips from this. I can show the audience, you know, the potential buyers that this looks fine. These are $40. I paid $1 a piece because of the condition. It looks like junk. They couldn't make out. They couldn't read it. I knew what it was instantly. Same thing here. Another World War II ones. But the ones you really want, this one is primo. This one here is probably a couple $100. I love 8mm films, and Audrey posted one on here. But I watch them, and I'll take clips. My son or somebody will sit there and take a photograph. We have I paid $5 for a Japanese film projector. It's like a $400 or $500 projector. It didn't work. I put a new belt and a new bulb myself. I've got about $100 or so into the bulb and the belt, and I can freeze frame on that projector. It plays sound as well too, and I can record sound on it. But the point is, I can freeze frame without hurting the film, and I freeze frame a shot. We have a 10-foot movie screen that I can blow this image up to 10 feet. And I can stand back 15 feet away from it and take some excellent primo quality photos of it, and that's what we do. This one says California from 1981. I never trust what's on the case on anything that you find like this. I have played this. There is some primo. This is 400 feet. I believe it's 400 feet of movie film. It's all oddball shots. There's some actual actresses filming on a set. I don't know the set. I'll have to go back and look. These are something my son took photos of like last month. I haven't listed them yet. But this stuff is gold for some of these. Not just because of the color of the case, but stuff like this is gold. Now, stuff like this I bought in big, huge lots at an auction. I've got tons of these. Just the empty cases I get 10 or 15 bucks for with the metal reel. Metal cases though. So I wasn't worried about what I have into this stuff. But a reel of California, and you're talking 20 minutes or so of color, 1981 film at Disneyland, in Anaheim, at the studios, watching them film a movie. This is some primo stock. This is like 200 plus, I would gather. I might even put 350 on it and just see what happens. You know, this is the type of stuff you want, but you can't play in this sort of field without knowing what's on them. You can't sell this. You can unroll some of these by hand if you don't have a projector and at least see what's on them. Like this one here, it has to be the right film. Just because it says it on the side doesn't mean a darn thing on any of this stuff. So anyway, I just wanted to shout that out there here. I just got some more film, so it's another area that I bought. I've got cases like this. I've probably got about 170 cases of 400 reel or 400 foot reels. No exaggeration right here. Then I've probably got 300-400 the 50-foot smaller reels that used to go in the old projectors, the cameras, the handheld ones that came out. And then I've got hundreds of pre-recorded 16mm. This is 8 and 6mm or 8mm. I buy 16 and 8mm films all the time. Big money in those, and I mean big money. I sold a 16mm color from like 47 of New York City, all lit up at night in color, and it was only I think 12 minutes of film from New York in color at night. And you could see like theater marquees with who was playing, which it was awesome. I wished I was doing YouTube back then because I own the stock. and I never thought about selling it, but I could have sold that image to a movie house or something along that line, because we do that for old clips off of old records with dead copyrights. I sell that kind of stuff to certain companies, and then because it's royalty-free items now. So that's other things you can do. That's part of the reason I was wearing a tie today, just FYI. So there's so much other stuff you can do with these film reels. I bought, in many occasions, film from a specific family. Carry yourself some paper and ask them to sign, release that you own the rights to those. Some will do it, some won't. Some will say you're crazy and just ignore you. But half the time I can get somebody to sign a piece of paper, give me the ownership to that piece, to the film, and that means I can do whatever I want. I could put them on a DVD and sell copies of that DVD on eBay. And stuff like that I can do as well with some music, but that's another topic another day. But let's go back in here and get some more questions. Antique show festivals, yes. I've done that for my whole life, Audrey. I always make money at those places. I cherry pick a antique mall, antique fair, antique festival, any of that stuff. I've been doing that for years. In Florida, I used to live at a place called, in Webster's, Renninger's out there. It was I think it was Monday, like at 4 in the morning we used to get out there. I actually set up at that place for a year or two myself as a vendor. And we went to Mount Dora, had a one thing that was like once a month as well, too, that was huge. We do all of those things. I've done them everywhere I've lived. When we were in D.C., there was one on in Georgetown area that we used to go to, in downtown. And then there was some other ones at a big bowling area. There was one and stuff. So wherever I've went, I've done all the antique fairs and festivals. That's how I started doing antiques, was doing the fairs and festivals, in all honesty. And Annie's got the other one, estatesales.net. Yep. Welcome, Disney Family 515. How are you doing? Meredethy, how welcome there. Yeah, most of the state sales do have mailing lists too. The ones that I deal with around here actually have a website, and I literally have it saved as a favorite place, and I just look at their calendar like every couple days. If you want to do estate sales and really get into doing auctions and estate sales, you're going to have to make yourself a list. And I say this all the time: make yourself a list of the good ones. Probably 60% of the ones in this area where I live, I would not go to anymore. They either secretly or openly bid on their own items at their own auctions, or it's set up sales, rigged photos, misquoting stuff, all kinds of stuff like that. I'm over it. Most of these people have a criminal record, in a lot of the ones around where I live, so I'm very careful on which ones I do or don't go to. You can check with the court system too on which ones have been arrested for scrupulous dealings, and you'll find that quite a few of them have. So I know a lot of people don't mess or worry about that, but I say that because when I go to any of the local live auctions, probably 30% now of everything you see at the auctions around here, or at least some of them it's even higher, are items that other sellers couldn't sell on eBay, that they're dumping back off at the auction. And I can 100% tell you that's the case, because I do that. I dump off my stuff at local live auctions that I can't sell, or it's not worth me listing. I'm not saying there isn't some money to be made on the stuff that I drop off, but I don't sell $4 and $5 postcards. So stuff like that, or movies that aren't worth listing if I can't list them in a big bulk lot or something. Bulk is usually the best, because I'll usually do that first, but there's just some days I just don't want to mess with something, or I just want to move it quick. It's some big items, and I bought a huge lot to get like 3 items. I pulled those 3 items out, and I'll just leave them at the auction for the next auction to go around. They're usually fine with that, because they got all the money they wanted out of me, and then they're going to get some more money from the same stuff without doing a thing again. So, that's just how it works with that. Let me pop down here. Cuddy Stark, well, I don't think we need to attack anybody, and I don't want to get in a political aspect of it, but I'm not a politically motivated person. I don't talk about that. So I think, we do as much bad stuff as a lot of the other countries that we go after. And I'm not saying Iran or anything specifically, but we've done a lot of bad things, and our government has been known to not tell us what's going on. I watch overseas news, so I know people say don't watch Al Jazeera or something, but it's always good to hear more than one side. And I do watch some European shows. I've watched BBC since I was 7 or 8. Because it's picked up here in Windsor. I'm right near Canada, so I don't listen to specifically news like that from one-offs. They say we do this, we say they do that. So it's a two-sided way. Hopefully they don't do something stupid and do it. Nothing we can do about it. I'm not going to worry about that either because we do so much other stuff here too. Broadening your search, broadening your horizon. Collectibles people will still collect if there's anything going on. Hopefully we don't do anything stupid like that. But, anyway, let's move on from that topic. It's not the best topic. Lord Kingdom, how are you doing? Yeah, I don't worry about that either, the price of oil or something like that. It's just cost of doing business. Yeah, I remember that one too, Hoffman. I used to watch the Three Stooges on the weekend all the time. Hey, Nancy, how are you doing? Hope you're doing well tonight, Nancy. Ellen Masters. How do you recommend selling artwork? It depends on what kind of artwork you have, Ellen. Now, I sell postcards, prints, sketches, paintings, oil paintings. I used to do portraits for a very long time. I've probably done, and I tried to figure this out because I threw a figure. I thought I did 400 or 500. I've probably done 700 or 800 portraits for people in my day and time. People I'm the best on. I was never really great at backgrounds and stuff. Nowadays I'm better, but people and faces I've always been great on. I used to do movie actors and actresses' faces for years and years, and I used to sell them constantly. It just depends, though. I sell postcards on eBay probably every day of the week almost. My own postcards as well. I've got some that aren't signed with the name that you know me by, so just FYI, I do other things. I have a couple pen names, I guess you would call it, DBAs, for artwork as well, too, because I don't like associating certain types of artwork with fantasy and all the other works. You don't want to muddy the waters. You want to look like you're one type of artist versus, one that just does all kinds of whatever's out there. I center in on fantasy and stuff like that and what I really push the most of. The other artwork that I do, I sell locally or something like that. I'll produce randomly like something for a shop. There's a head shop around here that I've done stuff for many, many times over and over again. So just a perfect example of something. Let's see here. Don't want to miss anybody. Brimfields is the bomb. Hey, Aaron, how are you doing? Welcome in here this evening. Well, you have a good evening, Annie. Good to have you. I'm selling over send offer to buyers. It shows only 4 items. If it only shows you 4 that you can send offers to, that's all you can send them to, Thomas. It's a limited amount based on certain factors. Let's say some of the people that are watching some of your items might have gotten 10 offers already. They're not gonna allow them to keep getting a ton of offers. They don't want people to get irritated by how many offers they get. Now, on any given day of the week, I probably have like 700 or so on average that I can send out. I only send out offers to watchers maybe twice a month. And we started doing it. I said, let me do it all the time. It's just a lot of time and stuff like that. And sometimes I could get more money. We do send out on some of the ones by length of time up. So I usually send out maybe about 400 offers to watchers a month now. That's about my average, I think. Again, I could send out, hundreds and hundreds of them, but I've only done that a few times and sent them all out. And yes, it did help. I've got a video on that. We literally did almost $700 and some odd in sales in just like a 2-hour time frame. Let's see here. Hopefully that answers your question, Thomas. There's no rhyme or reason as to what eBay is going to allow you to send an offer to. It's just based on internal facts that they do not share. Sad to say, but that's how they do it. Palm Beach, I've been there myself. They used to have a big art show, and there's a Italian artist who actually invited me to a studio that does hand-carved stone, and he did a big, huge flying eagle for a Air Force base in Florida. Jeez, and it was at, he did the Festival of the Masters at Disney with me. It was somebody I've done stuff with before. Can't remember his name. It's been like 20 years, but... Hey, Chris, how are you doing? Thrift Shop Hustler in the house. If you haven't checked him out, go check his channel out. He's a real good guy. He is on my favorites list as well. And we already called out Popeye there. Let me pop down and get some more questions. Gary Smith, welcome. Good evening as well. Yeah, just because it has watchers does not mean you can send offers to them. eBay limits how many offers you can send, as well as how many offers a buyer or potential buyer can get. They don't flood them with offers like that, so just keep that in mind. I've got in the store I share with you, I think as of today, like 25,000 items in that store. Last I looked, I could send out about 736 offers out of that 20 some odd thousand items up in that store. So, it's not based on any factor of how many items you have or what has watchers or not. Because I've got probably half of the items up maybe have a watcher, at least one. So, let's see here. Welcome, Rusted Raccoon. How are you doing? Yeah, once you send out offers, again, Karen's made a good point here. Once you send out offers to the first group and you clear out all your offers, you have more pop up. That's what I say. Anytime I go in there, there's usually 700. If you're going to hammer your offers, the minute you get a chance to make an offer and you send one out, you're going to keep getting them. You may not get a ton of them, but you're going to constantly get more and more of them as it goes by. So you do them, you're going to get more of them. That's the fact. I can tell you for sure, whenever I do some, the next day there's more back up. Even while I did that video I literally filmed while I was doing it. And while I was doing it, the number went up even a couple of times, how many I could send out. So take that into mind. I love the offer aspect. I don't do as many as I probably should, but we've got so much other stuff going on. My goal is to get newer items up as well. So I'm more focused on new items versus trying to, sell at a discount rate some of the older items up. Obviously, the real old items we do blow out, though. Doesn't mean you have to send them to people you don't want to, but that's how they refill it. If you don't send the offers that you have, you can send one out for $2 less or $5 less on an item. It doesn't matter the amounts. It's just the activity of doing it, I guess you could say. And if you send an offer for like $5 or $10 less on an item, the person sometimes will come back with you and say, hey, this is about where I'd want to be, and you'll know something about the item. Out of those I sent out, I had people accepting those for a couple days after that, and some even came back and sent me an email or said, this is about the most I would spend, would you do that? And sure enough, I did it, and I sold it as well, too. But it all came about because I make an offer to the buyer or to the watcher, so just keep that in mind, though. Yeah, you can only do them to those who make available. And if there's nothing that says you can send an offer, you can't send them. eBay limits it, as I said. Yeah, eBay controls it, unfortunately. Oh, hang on, my feed just disappeared. I just saw one I wanted to look at. Hauptmann is talking about Build-A-Bear. Let me see where we're at. Yeah, I don't do Facebook Marketplace. I know in my Patreon group, there are 2 people in my Patreon group who were flagged and kicked off temporarily off of Facebook for no apparent reason. And it ended up hurting their business, and they do a lot of business on there. So Facebook doesn't know what they're doing. Facebook is so out of there. They're so scatterbrained on what they're doing. They're risking your personal information every day of the week. They are actually in court. They've been sued. They had to fork money over in Europe. They've had so many breaches where I'm sure almost everyone's account who has a Facebook has been breached from there. I changed my I'm not a big fan of Facebook anymore. I liked them back in the day, but not anymore. Live auction tips, Josie. Know your items. Don't spend over what you know that you can get out of them. Don't go over it on an auction frenzy. That's the biggest thing I can tell you. But you got to know what you're buying to be able to do it right. That's the only thing I can tell you with that. When I listed items in both good and very good condition, Amazon hid the listings in very good on main page unless were specifically selected. There's no rhyme or reason on Amazon. I hate to tell you this, but I've had all kinds of screwy things. I've sold the same thing on Amazon for years, and one day they said I couldn't sell it anymore. I wasn't allowed to sell it in the first place, they told me. So anyway, I fought back, and there's not much you can do on that. If they want to gate you on something, they gate you on that. Let's pop down here. Yeah, it depends on what you sell and what you have. Some will sell immediately there, Solomon. Hey, how are you doing, Mike? Can you please address eBay's current rules showing YouTube videos demonstrating products for certain handmade items people used to show links to YouTube videos but then told couldn't because of reaching? You can put clips on eBay for YouTube videos. There's nothing wrong with that. You just have to do them properly. Maybe I'll put a video together on that. Hang on, let me put that on a note. I'll see about maybe throwing a video together because I do that as well too. On like a record or something, I put clips on as well. Yes, Carl, I will tell her hi as well. Thank you, Carl. Let's see here. We are on the, I think the 23rd is the next day, Tommy, for, it's going to be me, Chris, and Dom, I believe, on Chris's channel, if I'm not mistaken. I do sell craft lots, Carl, on Etsy occasionally, so yeah, I do dump them off that way. Gary Smith, do you accept offers? I do bin with best offer on everything, almost every 99% of every item I sell is a bin with best offer. Everything. I mark stuff up 3 times what I expect to get it in certain categories, so if they offer me half the price, I would still take it because I'm getting still more, almost 20% more than the item should sell for in the first place. So yeah, I don't care if it's half off. It depends on what it's worth and what I expect to get out of it. I mark my stuff up high, and I do sell them high all the time. If you look, I could do video after video of showing my items versus other people's items and show you how much more I sell them for than other people. In my Patreon, I've got a video that I show many items, the exact item that I got, and then I'll show you many other people selling the exact same item for less, every one of them. If you price right, you're going to sell them right. I'm telling you. Most people don't go back when they're buying items and look. There's no way to price some random postcard from Disney or something. Disney might be a bad example because there are specific Disney sites that cover postcards, but just some random card from some city, no one's going to look it up. They'll have a price range that they want to spend on it, and if it's in that price range, they'll buy it. They're not going to go look up comps on some card that they may never see another one of. That's what I see. I sell my postcards higher than most people. I sell a ton of stuff higher than most people. I just sold another China postcard the other day for almost $500. That's 5 China cards for almost 5. Well, I think I sold 4 of them for around 4 something, and then 1 for 500. And it was Nanking is what the card was from. It was a small town, and there's a laundry in the photo or in the image. It was a real photo postcard as well too. So, China cards are the bomb. So if you didn't know, let me pop down here. I have $150 purchase already made, $700 on paper manuals. Yep, paper manuals are the bomb too, Carl. That is a good one too. Sellbrite is the site, sellbrite.com. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't. Whatever the offer is, I send something back. I don't care if it's a $100 item and they offered me $2. I usually send an offer back every time. My offer back to them may be $75 on that $100 item, even though their offer was $2, and then it's in their ballpark hands. They'll think you're crazy and they just won't respond. You won't have to waste your time, but I always send an offer back. I don't care what it is. I always send an offer back. Oh, Carl's got something on multigraphs. I thought that's what they were called. NASCAR 3345. How are you doing? You can check him out as well. Found a vintage Bible from it depends on the Bible. Depends on the Bible. I sell Bibles constantly. It depends on the type of Bible, like in Oxford or college, or it depends on the Bible. Depends on if it's leather. Depends on the condition too. Average Bible from pre-1900, 25 bucks maybe. Karen, love the Patreon videos. Well, thank you very kindly. Yeah, I think I've got 62. I've got one sitting here which would have been up today, but I did go out and do that haul, so I do apologize. I promise you it'll be up tomorrow. I will have several more videos up this week. 2 more for Patreon. They are both shot. I just haven't had a chance to get the last few minutes done of it. So, FYI, you'll have, I think it's video 63 and 64 if my brain's thinking right. I know I got at least 62 videos on Patreon. Popeye lost power. Yuck. I hate when that happens. Yeah, the wife isn't happy about the postcards everywhere at Popeye. Well, I already had stuff all over that I wasn't supposed to have all over, so I don't blame the wife for being mad. When we worked this all out, it was a deal that I wouldn't cover the house with stuff, and that hasn't happened, unfortunately. I've talked before, maybe at the end of this year in fourth quarter, we might have a warehouse going. Just because the space was, if I do the warehouse deal, we'll be going and doing storage locker auctions as well too, just to take up the extra space. Because I know I have a friend who has a warehouse that I can get for almost nothing, and it's huge. So let's move on down here. Steve Elmore, well, thank you. Bobby, formerly John Wilford. On offer, I learned to not take it personally in counters. Yeah, counters. I don't care what I don't take anything personal. Yeah, and they will buy it quite often. I don't take any offense to anything business anymore at all. I could care less what they say to me, what they call me. You know, working in a restaurant or even as a regional, I've been called every name in the book. I've had people, slash tires, break windows in my car. You name it. It's happened. And I totally don't take anything personal. I could care less anymore if they're trying to make it personal or not. Nothing is personal. Anybody buying or making offers on eBay has no clue who you are. You got to take it aside and think of it as it's not a personal transaction. They're just dealing with eBay. That's all they're doing. And they consider you just part of eBay. You're not an individual to them. Well, thank you as well, Bobby. I appreciate the comment. And thank you as well, Paul. Yeah, the Brady Bunch. Yeah, I want to say they did a park, and that was where it was at. That could very well be the case. I remember the exact episode because Greg, I think, had to bring his father's blueprints somewhere, and they ran across the park to do it. I remember that. I worked at Disney, for those who didn't know, so I'm a big theme park person. Hi, wondering on Ellen Masters on indentured paper has a couple small patches over spots at each signature. What is under ideas? I wouldn't worry about the patches. I'd just sell it as it is. Sometimes it could just be blocking out something or a name change or something like that. It was probably issued and signed over that way as well, I would gather. I watched the Brady Bunch. There's nothing wrong with that. They have gum cards, games. In fact, I showed one in one of my videos the other day. They had a Brady Bunch board game out there. Yeah, modern day Hong Kong cards can sell in the $50 range. That is an area. There are others 4x6s though. Maybe Popeye doesn't buy them, but I know for sure that Kings Island cards go. California cards, large size ones go. I sell 4x6 California cards all the time. There's like 5 areas that I will buy large postcards, 4x6 postcards. And Hong Kong, of course, as Popeye says, is one of the ones you definitely want to buy. Now, I don't buy every Hong Kong postcards that's new. I know my cards, so I know Hong Kong ones fairly well. Even big cities in Hong Kong sell, or in China. I sell downtown Hong Kong cards. The last card I sold, not the $500 one from Nanking, but the one before that. In fact, I think I showed the one before that. I got around 400, like maybe 375 or 400 out of. It was downtown Hong Kong. It's a big, huge city, but still, even with Hong Kong 1930s cards, there's not a ton of them around. So there's big money in postcards. I'm telling you, we make thousands a month in postcards, just postcards. I sell 6 or 7 postcards just on eBay every single day of the week, day in and day out, nonstop, never stops. I mean, that's why we've got the set pattern for wrapping and shipping, because I sell so many of these things. 6x9 poly bags I buy 5,000 at a time. That's because that's how many of these things we sell constantly. Anyway, not trying to brag, it's just the way it is. Pick with joy. Can we sell this on eBay? I recently purchased a storage and I have a black and white 1950s vintage new pinup girls photos. I've seen that they sell on eBay, but are we allowed? Now there are some things you got to watch out for. Some nudity can be allowed in the postcard section, and I used to complain about some of the nudity I'd see in them because some of the content is really graphic, and those are not supposed to be up on eBay. But eBay still doesn't take them down. When my sons were younger, we'd be scanning postcards and stuff occasionally, and they'd be in the room, and sometimes I ran across these awful, full frontal, just awful cards for seeing a child, I should say. I don't care if you like porn or not. It's fine. You're allowed to. Nothing wrong with it. But for a child on an open platform, it's a different story. So on stuff like that, sometimes I list it in the adults only section. So you're welcome to do that. They do sell there. I sell most of my adult magazines. I sell adult magazines, and I sell a lot of them. And I usually can get them really cheap because, especially if it's someone who doesn't like them in their house or it's an estate sale or something, usually they don't have them out. You might have to ask for them. I can usually get a huge stack of them for almost nothing. You know, we've run into, Playboy #1 a couple of times. Not the best copy, best condition, but it's a couple $1,000 in any condition. So adult stuff sells very well. Playing cards. I talk about playing cards all the time. Nude girls or women, I should say, on playing cards sell very well. And I'm not trying to, offend any person on the channel. My wife knows we sell this. She lists them sometimes as well too. It's a business. This is a business. Nothing personal. No attack. No judging anybody on this. It's just a business. So yes, you can sell them. Adult section at the worst case scenario. Can you sell a photo of German headstone in Salt Lake City of Nazi soldier? Yes, you can. You can sell items with swastikas in it. People don't understand that you can do that. You can sell photos with swastikas. You can also sell postcards with swastikas because the swastika is not an original Nazi symbol. It's a peace symbol from the Native Americans, as well as, if I'm not mistaken, a Hindu symbol as well. It's been around for like 1,000 years, the swastika. The Nazis turned it on a little bit of an angle, but it's the exact same symbol that's been around. You will see that symbol on airline luggage labels, on train labels, on Indian items, Native American items, across the board. You can sell those. You can sell money with swastikas on it, German money with swastikas. You can sell postage stamps and currency as well. Those are not on the ban list of items you can sell. You can 100% sell those type of items. Just FYI. And I got you that answer, Pick with Joy. There is an adult section, if you didn't know, on that. And I do use it quite often. Basically, you're safe if you list something in that section. To look at those items, they have to sign or click on something special that says they guarantee that they're over 18. So then if something happens and a minor looks at it, you are not responsible if you put it in the main section. So I almost never put any of the adult magazines in the main section, just FYI. But we've got thousands of them, so, I don't share those on here because, again, I don't share adult material. I do sell it, though, but I don't share it because I don't want to get dinged either, so... yeah, and Karen shouted out that too as well. But you can sell some nudity on without being blocked. I believe Playboy is allowed to be listed without being in the adult section, if I'm not mistaken. Barlington Duke fan, I appreciate your information. Has really helped me get back on the eBay wagon. Love to do eBay, but I need the insurance I get from my full-time job, especially for my husband. That can be a thing. We have to buy our own insurance on the market as well, so I completely get that. Another thing, insurance-wise, I have a BOP, and I don't know. The only one I think that may have one on all of YouTube is maybe the Craigslist Hunter, because he has a store. I have a BOP, which is a business owner's policy that covers every aspect of my business. If something happens or any of that stuff, my insurance takes it over. If somebody gets hurt or any of that stuff, my insurance takes all that over. I know people say it's a waste of money. It's not a waste of money. With that insurance, I'm able to get wholesale deals and indemnity clauses and all kinds of stuff that many other people can't get because they don't have insurance to cover the merchandise that they're getting wholesale. If you're going to deal with wholesale clients and buy wholesale to turn around and reship, I can get merchandise shipped to my house, and I don't have to pay for 30 days on wholesale deals. Now, again, I've been dealing with the same people for a long time. I couldn't do that without a BOP. So where you or anybody else you know is going out and buying stuff and paying cash in advance and then worrying about selling it, I can start selling it before I even paid for the items. And in many cases, before the bill is due, I've got enough money in to pay for the items. So I am out nothing when I do it that way. But it took me to have a business owner's policy, a BOP. If you don't watch the channel and you haven't seen a lot of my stuff, I'm very technical. I get into all the business. I was a regional manager for 20 years. I know what I'm doing because that was my job for 20 years. And I treat eBay as the same thing as a full-fledged job, like I worked for somebody else. Now I'm the boss, and I'm extremely careful with everything. I would rather have the insurance. If I break a leg, sure, I can collect workman's comp because I pay myself as an escort, but if I'm out of business and I can't work, I still don't have money coming in. With a BOP, it covers, if let's say lightning strikes, I'm broken into, something stolen, it's all covered. All of that's covered. And it's not that expensive. A couple $100 a month for a BOP, for a decent one. You're going to have to hunt around. I've shared who I have with several other folks, so if somebody wants me, you'd have to email me through the About Me page here on here or through Facebook or something. But a BOP is the way to go when you're doing as much money as I am. If you get sued or something happens, you're done if you don't have insurance. If somebody slips or falls picking something up at your house, or somebody gets hurt on an item that you're selling, or a piece of clothing, or anything happens like that, you can be sued. Or anything could happen, and the insurance saves my butt. I haven't had to use it, thank goodness, but it's there, and it does cover my loss of anything. If the internet's down for a month or a week, or somebody was talking about, if we go to war or something and I can't use the internet or something happens, I'm still covered. If the cables are down or lines are cut or whatever, I'm covered with insurance. I'm covered for the loss of wages, and I can produce paperwork that shows what I make on a daily basis. We do projections. I know what that is. So we'll just go for a few more minutes because the wife sounds like she's still getting ready. Carl's talking about by the rules here. The rules do not state that everything has to go in the adult section with nudity in it. Certain types of nudity, light pinup magazines it can have full nudity, but it depends on how the ladies are posing. We sell some of the 50s pinups occasionally. Like, I think Wink magazine is one that you might say could be listed in the regular section. It's just got a few pinups and they're light, maybe just topless. Stuff like that can sell. Anyway, in the regular section, and that is not banned by eBay. Some of that is allowed, and it literally states that I've called to report some of those, and that's what I was physically told on several occasions by eBay, that certain types of magazines with nudity can be listed in the normal section without listing the adults. Adults mostly for the really pornographic versus artsy pinup style. So anyway, hopefully that explains it. Hey, Landshark Picker, how are you doing? Craig's out here with us too. If you haven't checked him out, he does have a good channel. I do watch some of his videos when I have a chance. Not many times these days to watch anybody else's, but occasionally I do watch some. Nudes do sell, though. Yeah, Silver Pools is 100% right. Adult magazines I sell constantly, and there's certain titles of adult magazines that you'd be shocked. I can get $200 and $300 for one single magazine of something like Wink sells very well. Wink magazines are like $50 a pop, usually. Type it in if you don't know what Wink is, too, so just FYI. Silver Soap. How many items do you typically list in a day? I don't list many items myself, but employee-wise, hundreds a day usually. It depends on what day of the week it is and what they're doing that day. Some days they're checking on listings. Depends on who's here, too. Some people do YouTube for me. They'll do edits on videos and things like that. Some do mailings. Some take photos, some scan. It just depends. Or processing. We were in the process of trying to move some boxes around, so I had for 2 days sorting through some stuff because I would like to get a storage unit that I purchased from somebody who passed away, a past picker, and put it together in a video here is what I've been talking about because I've got a ton of boxes that I would like to move. So anyway, it just depends on the day of the week. But if a typical day, if I've got, say, 2 or 3 people listing, 300, maybe more than that, just depends. We sell some days 100 items, so if you don't list enough, your inventory count is going to go down. And as far as I can tell, eBay doesn't like to see that. It might affect, search ranking or something if your quantity goes down a little bit. I don't know how true that is, but I wouldn't doubt them to do that. Hair dye sells too, Galaxy 5000. Definitely so. Anything's fair game. I've sold nuts and live plants and seeds and, geez, you name it, car parts. What haven't I sold? I've even sold vehicles. How did the floodgates open with sourcing BitMEX? I stopped going after clothing. As soon as I started going after the paper and stuff, I realized that's so much easier to get. I don't have to fight for it. It's everywhere. I can go to an antique store any day of the week and pick up paper and make a profit off of it. So clothing-wise, when there was no savers and the other stores were high-pricing everything, I couldn't source there. So as soon as I realized that I should be selling something else, the floodgates opened up, meaning I can find the stuff everywhere. Who's going to find 25,000 pairs of shoes or 25,000 shirts? Even if only half of them are worth selling, you can't find that quantity of anything other than collectibles or records or CDs or something. It's just not possible. So, the floodgates are opened up. I mean, I've got 25,000 postcards sitting around me right this second of, geez, any kind of quantity you can imagine, of any type of topic you can imagine. There's a ton of California cards in there. There's a bunch of Mississippi ones, which is where my wife's from, so we're probably going to let her look through those first. Mississippi cards sell very high if you didn't know it. Really high for some of them. We've sold some Mississippi cards for like $250 to say $475-ish on many, many occasions recently too. So postcards sell well depending on where they're from. Sean J., I went to the post office and got half the shipping eBay was offering. I'm not sure what you mean. The post office is more expensive than shipping through eBay any day of the week. We get a discount, and I can guarantee you 100% that shipping through eBay is cheaper than buying it at the post office. No matter what. It depends on how you're sending it, but it's always cheaper from eBay. They don't offer like stamped services because you can't send anything, merchandise, with a stamp. You're not supposed to anyway. Let's see. Marlington Duke fans, I've started back on eBay and have sold an average one thing a day with a $26 average sales. Work for a time, so I need to get more up. Yeah, I'm so glad we switched and just do this full time. In all honesty, that's my goal, was to do this full time, and we've now surpassed what we ever expected to do in my entire life. Miss Mimi, welcome. Thank you very kindly. Number 100. Yeah, I see we got over 100 thumbs up. Thank you kindly for everybody. Over 170 watching right now, so that's good. Let me slide down here. I'm going to cut it off in just a few more moments here. The 716 crew. Old Cracker Jack prizes, better to open them or to sell them unopened? Depends on how old. I wouldn't open up anything that's sealed. NOS is best. Just keep them sealed. Unless they're ones you can't tell. And then, I don't know. It depends on the era. Usually you can feel what they are through it, actually. Well, good for you, Nancy. Hong Kong cards always sell for us, always. It depends. There's a bunch of Hong Kong cards that don't sell, of course, so don't get me wrong. Probably 90% of the Hong Kong cards are just common cards. It's just like anything else. There's a higher percentage of Hong Kong cards that'll go for more money than other cards, though. eBay said USPS wanted $35 for parcel post select online. I checked US posted at Calgary $16 for parcel. I don't know where you're getting the information. I'm not going to get into it specifically, but I can tell you for sure that eBay is cheaper on every single service I've ever checked. If you're checking on the post office or on the post office's site, they do not have dimensional shipping figured in from what I saw on the site. So it's not correct either unless they have the dimensional in there, because it doesn't go just by weight anymore. It's by dimensional weight. And I can tell you for sure, I do eBay and have done eBay forever. In fact, I know a post office or a postmaster personally that we eat dinner with. So it's cheaper on eBay. I can tell you for sure. I have not seen any price anywhere that was more expensive on eBay versus the post office. Do I sell visual art? Yes, Gary, I do sell visual art. I sell my own personal visual art that I painted and created and then mass-produced, and we sell other people's as well, too. Zep toys, yeah. Sounds like you're a toy person. I love toys, so I hate clothing. Yeah, I don't even look for it anymore, clothing. Yeah, anybody passing up Hong Kong cards doesn't have their mind in the right spot. Well, thank you, Lex. Again, we're going out. We did some business today, so, I do have a tie on. I didn't feel like taking it off and taking the clip off and all that kind of stuff. How thick can the Epson scanner do, Carl Bottom? I've scanned paper with staples in it by accident, and it went through just fine, and scanned them. There is a setting in the Epson, both of them. Now, there's two Epsons that do it. The one that I have, I think, is the 560 or 540. It's a duplex. The newer one does the same thing, but there's a setting in there where you can set it for thin or thick. And on just the standard setting, it will do paper clips. So, I was shocked. I would never put a paper clip through there, or not a paper clip, I'm sorry, a staple, because you could scratch the glass. It was an accident, but it did it. It actually scanned a paper or a staple. And that's pretty thick for a scanner to do without an issue, so I was very happy with that. Well, thank you, Craig, as well. And thank you, Galaxy 5000. Thanks, Nancy. Hard to find film. I find film a couple times a month, every single month of my life. As I said, altogether, there's probably 600-700 reels of film here right now. And I list a few here, a few there, usually because we have to watch it. And one night we'll have like a family night and we'll just throw some movies on and one of the kids will take some photos. I usually pay them for their time while they're doing it and watching the movie, so. Angela. Well, thank you. Ashtrays do sell. I've sold ashtrays for like $400 in the past before. No exaggeration. Ashtrays go well. And sometimes I've walked up before our Savers closed down. They had ashtrays for 59 cents at a Savers by our house before it closed down. And I bought like 17 of them to start off with. And I said, well, let me try these out. And I went back and no one bought the ashtrays. The rest of, maybe a couple had sold, but 90% of the ones that I didn't buy were still there and I bought them all. We had at one time like 126 ashtrays, and most all of those came from Savers at one time. I sold them all. I don't have but maybe one ashtray that we just got in that I didn't even list yet. So I don't see many ashtrays anymore. For some reason, ashtrays have dried up. Well, I guess I don't go to Savers, so maybe that's part of it. Again, we don't have a Savers anymore, so. Some of the 8mm and 16mm adult film is worth some good money. It just depends on which ones. Now, I have some in the original boxes from the 60s and 70s. Those are the best ones to get if they're in the original box with the original case. They got to work. They got to be in good condition. No vinegar syndrome or anything like that. You don't want them turning red or anything like that. Good vintage film, if it wasn't on proper stock, will turn red and gets what's called vinegar syndrome, where it'll smell like vinegar. And basically, that's unrecoverable. All you can do with that is make a new copy of it and then digitally alter it. That's what they do with film. I worked at Disney for 10 years, and I've got to see pretty much every aspect of what Disney has done, at least at some point in my career at Disney. And I've seen them actually repairing old film and stuff, and I've seen it even before I knew that it had that smell there. And I ended up working at a movie theater for like 3 years before, too, as well, so. Where are we? My feed just disappeared. Galaxy, Don helped turn me into a source and beast at a filmmaker. I used to only look for video game related stuff because that was what I knew. I didn't know all the stuff beforehand, obviously. So the more you learn, the more you know. That's knowledge is power. And I still remember that from Schoolhouse Rock. Knowledge is power. If I didn't know this stuff, I wouldn't be able to sell it. And I sure as heck wouldn't talk about it. I only talk about what I know. I know there's tons of YouTubers on here trying to talk and tell you they know their stuff. And I could nitpick so many of them. I try not to do that. But the point is that I only talk about what I know. And I think I've got a very good, solid knowledge on it. There's people that know more than me on many items. Don't get me wrong. I don't know anything about sports at all. Clothing, anybody could probably run circles around me these days because I don't keep up on it at all anymore. Books I'm still pretty good on. But collectibles and antiques, there's only so many available. I've run into the same items over and over and over and over and over again. So the prices on them. Like Disney cards. I know which Disney cards are worth money, and there's hundreds and hundreds of postcards. These are just common cards. They're nothing. I put them in a lot. I'll sell I think we usually do 12 and do a lot of 12. 1 foot of each, sell them in a lot and be done with them, and that's usually what I do. It's so much easier with that scanner. And just because it's a duplex scanner, you can set it to only do one side of the card as well, too. 8mm film with just family photos from the 60s and 70s. If they're doing something, there's something interesting, yes, but just family film isn't worth much, honestly. You'll sell it as a lot just fine, but other than that, I've been to Pittsburgh quite a few times. Local live auctions are good, yes. Have I ever thought about moving back to Florida? I would never do that. Nope. Too crowded, too congested, too hot, too muggy, too many hurricanes and weather issues. Just wouldn't do that, no. Nothing wrong with the state of Florida in general, but I'm happier up here. I like the season change, I guess. Do you accept offers on bulk? Are you talking about bulk purchases, like bulk lots? I accept offers on anything I put up. I think 99, as I said, percent of everything I list is a bin with best offer across the board on everything. Florida has its drawbacks. You can say any state sucks, honestly. Ohio has its issues as well, too. I lived in Florida for 10 years, so I just about had it. No family or anything like that in that area. Brandon, how are you doing? What's up with you as well? Yeah, I know I'm working my way down. I do get behind on this, but I do try to answer every question. I don't skip around. Florida is nice, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to ding on Florida. I just wouldn't want to live there. I didn't mind. I loved visiting and friends and stuff. I did art galleries and shows, and I had a good time in Florida. I met my wife there. We got married at Disney, on Disney. We snuck in and got married someplace we weren't supposed to. Everybody just showed up at a place. It doesn't even exist anymore. A little like Brian, by the way, but... yes, I am in the Holland, Ohio area. I'm not actually in Holland, but... Yeah, Florida does have alligators. I used to metal detect them. We were at a place called the Battle of the Wahoo, and I got permission to metal detect the battlefield, which is on private property. And we were out in the woods metal detecting. I had just dug up a U.S. greatcoat button from 1820, and we stepped around the corner, and there was an 8-foot alligator just bathing out in the sun, probably about 4 feet from us. It was probably 5 or 6 feet from me when I was crouched down on the ground, not even realizing it was there and metal detecting. I was digging up something. It was in the hole still. We were a little freaked out, and we did leave. We backed up very slowly. They can't run very fast on the ground for a certain length of time. So, snakes are more of my concern down there as alligators, where we used to have them at Disney. They're all over at Disney. There are people that used to feed them hot dogs and chicken in the ponds outside, out back of the restaurants I worked in, believe it or not. Yeah, I'm not big into politics. No, I do not do Bitcoin. Bitcoin is going to be regulated in the next 2 years. I guarantee it, and it will not be Bitcoin anymore after that. The government will not allow Bitcoin to make money on its own. I guarantee it. They will step in. The current administration has already spoken about that. Look it up. You will see they are looking to go after Bitcoin. So I'm not holding my breath on any of that stuff. It could disappear in a blink of an eye, just like the stock market and stuff. And this is not political motivated at all. It's just the facts. The government is not going to let somebody make the money without being able to collect on it. I promise you. That is why we are paying tax to other states for stuff we sell from our state. Perfect example. The current administration is the one who enacted the law that makes you pay state sales tax to other states. The current administration, again, I'm not trying to be political. It's just the facts of the matter is, I'm not saying another administration wouldn't have done it as well, but that's who did it this time. Florida does have not totally year-round garage sales. I never had the luck. There was a few here and there, but during the winter months, there's not many people that I saw that ran them. Yeah, there are a lot of bugs, though. And thank you, Brandon, as well. Yeah, we used to see alligators all the time out in Disney. In fact, a child was killed by one, I think, at... I want to say the Grand Floridian, the pond around the Grand Floridian there. I worked in the Grand Floridian before, just for a couple days, but I did work there. At Disney, you could transfer, pick up shifts in other departments, and I did it all the time for extra money. Well, thank you, Nancy. Oh, good there, Galaxy. I'm going to have to cut it off here. We're running very late. Silver Sob, or Sobi, however you want to pronounce it. I have some up there. If you go to my channel page, there's a few art ones down at the bottom. I think 5 or 6, and you can see some. The quality on some of the pencil sketches, one of them looks a little weird because there's a glare on it from pencil. If you don't know, I didn't have my lighting right. We got the lighting fixed. I have the art professor coming online. It's already a made-up page. I don't have any videos up, so I don't know if you can search it, but it is a public page. So we will have videos going up under the Art Professor. I think it's only going to be a video a week, 5 a month basically on that channel. All art related, all stuff that you can make money or examples on how to do something. I've got a Christmas ornament video going to go up there that's already done. I've got art video going up from some pencil sketches, how-to videos and things like that as well too. So I will have a second channel. I do artwork. I've done artwork professionally for a very long time. As I said, I've done 700, 800, 900 maybe even portraits. That's what I used to do. Pencil sketches and charcoal. And I'm talking large size, 24 by 36 is usually what I did for portraits. Just standard size. They come in a tablet. I use Bristol board and charcoal pencils. So anyway, let me cut it off here. Again, I do apologize. I'll try to get to some more next time. I don't think I'm too far off, though. I guess maybe I've got quite a few still to answer, but I do apologize. I don't get a chance to answer too many of the comments down below, but if you look and leave a comment down below in the comment section, I'll try my best to at least address the ones that I haven't answered yet. Popeye does have that 510. I think mine is actually a 540, though. Yeah, mine it looks like it's 540, but I could be wrong. My vision from here is not that good. But I appreciate everybody coming on. Hopefully you had a good time on the show tonight. I try to give you some good and honest information. I would never want to give you information that's not going to make you some money. Again, not trying to brag on myself, but there's testimonials from all kinds of people who've watched and made a ton of money. It's not me that's making the money. It's you paying attention to what the topics are. It has nothing. Anybody can show you the stuff. If you're not going to take the time to go out and look for those items or research it on your own, you're not going to get anywhere with the items. So I can give you whatever all the information you want. Is you don't use it right or you don't use it at all, that's your loss. So anyway, I appreciate everybody coming on. Have a good evening. Again, we probably won't be live next Thursday. I'm not quite sure yet. If I'm capable of going live Thursday, I will. We do have something going on with my son, and it's an appointment way out of the area, so I'll have employees here at the shop, so I may or may not feel like doing it by the time we get back. So have a good evening. Glad to have you on tonight.